you are up first. Can you let me know when you're ready to go, please?
Sure, I'm ready to go.
Okie doke. Great. Go ahead.
Perfect. There we go. So I'm Laura Engeman, and I'm with the California Sea Grant. I'm a coastal resilience specialist, relatively new to the program, but I also was a Sea Grant fellow with California Sea Grant many, many years ago. And my colleague, Nick Sajapur, is also with our coastal resilience extension team, and he's on the line as well. And then for the folks working on coastal resilience out of our extension team, it's primarily the two of us, although a number of our other extension folks have a lot of intersections with coastal resilience. But then we also have a very large Sea Grant, state Sea Grant Fellows program, of which many of them are based in within coastal management agencies. And so in particular, this last year, partly because they've been working remotely, we've had a chance to really tap into them as another resource. So when I think of our resilience team, it's kind of all of these faces down here, including the two of us. Next slide. So a couple of things that we're working on is really looking at coastal science application in the space of trying to help inform coastal adaptation. One big project that we sort of launched this last year, which Melodie Grubbs from USC Sea Grant is also involved with, is we're sort of giving it the nickname Dune Enthusiasm. It's essentially a dune living shorelines science network based on the fact that in California in particular, we don't have a lot of coastal dunes left to sort of use as templates, and we definitely don't, we're looking at using coastal dunes as a little bit more of a resilient strategy. So it is somewhat dune restoration, but it is also kind of these man-made artificially created dunes that have a lot more structure and involve things like cobble berms and more engineering to them than just a natural regeneration of the dune complex. So we're looking at, because there's so many demonstration projects and kind of these early pilots across California, looking to build a collaboration among the scientists involved in these projects, the project managers, the coastal managers, the engineers, and essentially start building a network to learn for lessons learned across the monitoring of these projects, because there's so many of them popping up at once, and then also kind of start to build a guidebook along the lines of using best practices. So there's any of you from New Jersey, there's a New Jersey Coastal Dune guidebook that we're kind of using as a template. Another space that we're looking at is just informing, like I said, city level adaptation strategies. So another project is looking at advancements in understanding cliff erosion along the West Coast and applying that to a road retreat project where the cliffs is essentially cut into the road. Next slide. And then the other piece I'll mention is really focused on coastal flooding monitoring and modeling for the West Coast, and particularly in California. So helping cities with getting better data and better wave run-up models to understand when and why certain areas might flood more than others. A lot of this work has also been done on the East Coast and the Gulf. And similarly, the folks doing this work got together under that Ocean Visions brand in the East Coast with Jill from Georgia Sea Grant. They hosted the East Coast Coastal Flooding Workshop. And now we are following, as well as I think the Gulf states, with a West Coast Coastal Flooding Workshop that's going to bring together a lot of the coastal modelers from the West Coast, as well as coastal managers and case studies of kind of how to use this information for climate adaptation strategies. And I think that's where I left it off.
Okay, great. So we'll do all of the presentations and then we'll have time for questions. So Jackson, you are up next. You can let me know when you're ready to go.
Cool. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay,
Jackson Blalock, Communications for Washington Sea Grant. You can start the slideshow whenever you're ready there. Great. Yeah, and I'll be sharing on our coastal hazards resilience work. Next, please. Yeah, thank you. I'll start by acknowledging that Washington encompasses the ancestral lands and waters of numerous First Peoples, including Coast Salish, Chinookan, and Untitled people. And Sea Grant is continually learning from these tribes for resilience efforts. Washington has two main shoreline areas, the larger urbanized Salish Sea and the largely rural Pacific Coast. I'm presenting from Willapa Bay along the west coast. Next, please. Washington Sea Grant is developing a coordinated multi-agency response to community needs, which we're calling the Coastal Hazards Organizational Response Team, or cohort, at the top. I'll use that acronym throughout today. This is the result of a longer-term strategy that Sea Grant and Washington Department of Ecology have been pursuing together since 2012. Our current focus is the Resilience Action Demonstration Project in orange, and 3 projects in green below that provide the building blocks for that project, with all hopefully leading to a structure and mechanisms for the cohort. I'll describe this work further now, focusing on the STAR projects. Next, please. The Coastal Resilience Project was a partnership funded by NOAA and led by Washington Sea Grant, and we supported regional sea level rise resilience by working with communities to iteratively produce and use localized sea level rise projections. Next. And along with many other outcomes that informed outreach through our existing King Tides program and multiple planning efforts such as coastal risk assessments, which is what you see right here. Next, please. And if you'd like to learn more, you can stay tuned for our upcoming webinar through NOAA's Office of Coastal Management on February 4th. That'll be announced soon enough. Next, thank you. Resources from that project are housed on the Washington Coastal Hazards Resilience Network website. Links right there if you want to explore it yourself in your own time. This website and the Practitioners Network is jointly managed by Sea Grant and Department of Ecology. And I'd like to point out the risk reduction mapper there, particularly though. Next. Right, so the mapper shares case studies of coastal hazards risk reduction projects in Washington and amplifies emerging best practices such as innovative designs, funding strategies, and locally driven collaborations. And project successes have reinforced the need for agencies to coordinate and coordinate their support for community-driven projects. Next. And this approach is embodied in the Resilience Action Demonstration Project, which is a test case for the multi-agency cohort model. We began by inventorying local projects, visions and hurdles towards resilience and funding opportunities. And this informed our resilience project guidelines, which we're now using to identify projects to jointly develop with local communities. This will shape recommendations for implementing the cohort with other agencies to deliver project scoping, technical assistance, and funding support to a pipeline of local projects. Next. One project that we're working with is the Willapa Erosion Control Action Network, or WECAN, at the mouth of Willapa Bay in Southwest Washington, once called Washaway Beach. Adopting the slogan, Wash Away No More, the group is successfully addressing this decades-long erosion hotspot through nature-based solutions, and lately it's actually started accreting. Next, please. This collaboration across a 7-mile stretch of shoreline involves local cranberry farmers, the Shoalwater Bay Tribe, the state, local, and federal agencies. And we're supporting this project through technical assistance, coordinating meetings to further a master plan, and funding, and outreach to keep the collaboration moving. And the work is captured on the project map. Next, please. Another project is along Baker Bay, further south, Shallow Bay at the mouth of the Columbia River. And the icons identify potential hazard mitigation projects that locals and agencies have identified, which we've inventoried through the Resilience Action Demonstration Project I mentioned. Next. The local economy there is driven by the ports of Ilwaco and Chinook, and we're working with them to address erosion and flooding at their marinas, highlighted here, and using that opportunity to go port to port and develop a larger resilience plan for Baker Bay itself. This way, we hope to further multiple projects all across the bay in a more synergistic, collaborative, and resilient manner instead of piece by piece. So next, please. And doing so, we're satisfying those locally driven resilience guidelines we've developed by addressing present hazards, as shown here, aligned with the long-term visions. Next, please. aligned with long-term visions, process-based design, inclusive collaboration, and additional community benefits. Next, please. Through our inventory of local projects, we're bridging between hazard mitigation plans and project implementation by identifying on-the-shelf projects to direct state, federal, or other support to when available. And these partnerships serve as test cases as we work to create an enduring multi-agency program to further resilience to hazards and environmental change. Next, please. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you. There's my contact info, and there's Sea Grant's website for Washington, as well as a list of other people that are involved in hazards-related work with leadership team at the bottom there. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jackson. So Brad, you're up next. You can let me know when you're ready to go.
Yeah, hi, ready.
Okie doke.
Okay, aloha, everybody. Since this session is focused on West Coast and beyond, we bring you resilience projects from beyond. That is Hawaii and the Pacific Islands. Thanks for having us today, Carolyn, and putting this together. I want to share a series of projects with you. Not everything we're doing is as much as we could fit in 5 minutes. I've included the contact information for the project leads for each of these at the bottom of the slide. So next slide, please. The first thing I want to share with you is our Homeowner's Handbook to prepare for natural hazards. This is an effort that was started in 2007 in Hawaii. It's now in 12 states and countries. This is being led by Dennis Wang at Hawaiʻi Sea Grant. It's helped to retrofit an estimated almost 3,000 homes in Hawaii with a potential risk benefit of up to almost $1 billion. Looking ahead, FEMA Regions 8 and 9 are interested, and Dennis is working on submitting a nationwide FEMA BRIC grant application this year for Hawaii to try to expand this into those regions. Next slide, please. Okay, the next project is one that I've been leading, building resilience to coastal hazards and climate change in Hawaii. This project encompasses 3 complementary projects, providing statewide tools for local government, planning for climate change and sea level rise. This work is building on a 2017 Hawaii Sea Level Rise Vulnerability and Adaptation Report that myself and a number of us at Hawaiʻi Sea Grant were involved in the development of, and other recent projects and initiatives at the state and county level. The Hawaii Sea Level Rise Viewer was completed in 2017 along with that state sea level rise report. We finished the disaster recovery guidance in 2019 and just finished the guidance for addressing sea level rise and community planning a couple months ago, and just releasing the final version of that document in a couple days actually. This work was funded through a NOAA Coastal Resilience Grant that we got in 2016 in close partnership and collaboration with state and county governments. Next slide, please. In addition to that statewide guidance, we're also addressing sea level rise and community planning by assisting local government to integrate coastal hazards, climate change, and sea level rise considerations through the comprehensive community plan process. We're doing this through technical resource papers. You see 3 of those examples here with the contacts for those if you want some more information. Using data from the Hawaii Sea Level Rise Viewer and elsewhere, in addition to ongoing direct assistance to the counties and state planners through longstanding partnerships and extension agreements with local government here in Hawaii. These efforts are leading to new actions and policies to improve resilience through the updated plans and related ordinances being adopted at the county level. Next slide, please. In addition, we're also working on nature-based resilience through nature-based solutions. A couple examples of new projects, recently started projects. The first, and these are both funded through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, or NFWF. The first is a project being led by Tara Owens that's going to design, plan, and permit dune restoration projects on Maui's North Shore. In addition, it's supplementing county beach master planning and a county-wide parks vulnerability assessment. The second project being led by Kelly Anderson Tagarino in American Samoa. It's the first living shorelines project down there and will enhance both recreational opportunities and ecological processes by installing living shoreline using a combination of oyster reefs or domes, locally sourced rocks, and native shoreline vegetation. These alternative shoreline protection options are critically needed in American Samoa due to rapid post-earthquake subsidence that's going on there, which has resulted in a relative sea level rise rate of about 4 times the global mean sea level rate, or about 16 millimeters per year of presence since 2009. That's possibly going to continue for decades. Next slide, thanks. You can go ahead and click through that. There's a series of animated points on here. Yeah, thanks. Okay. We're also working to improve resilience in urban beach setting at Waikiki on the island of Oahu. This work is being led by Dolan Eversole at USC Sea Grant, and it's in close partnership through cooperative extension agreements with state government, a local beach improvement association, and working closely with the local community there. The effort will produce a programmatic environmental impact statement addressing immediate beach management improvement needs and considering longer-term sea level rise resilience along the shoreline in Waikiki. The work's focused on improvements to shoreline engineering. This is, again, a heavily engineered shoreline as well as beach restoration, but again with a focus on longer-term resilience and sea level rise. Next slide, thanks. Oh, there we go. Okay, the last project I want to share with you is this West Maui wave run-up forecasting project that Tara Owens is involved in. Our extension work presents opportunities within these complex problems and environments to try to develop tools that help the community with increased resilience and improved coastal management. This project is currently underway in West Maui, which is one of the hardest hit areas in Hawaii with respect to waves and erosion impacts associated with sea level rise. This effort involves a team of researchers at UH and the Pacific Islands Ocean Observing System to develop a high-resolution wave run-up model validated with on-the-ground photos from the community to produce an advanced forecast of wave run-up impacts. And this web-based tool should be rolled out to the public very soon. That concludes. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. And Melodie. Just let me know whenever you're ready.
Okay, I thought I was unmuted. I'm ready. Thanks.
All right, no problem.
Thanks, Brad, Jackson, and Laura. Hi, I'm Melodie Grubbs. I'm with University of Southern California Sea Grant program. I'm a science research and policy specialist there. And today I wanted to talk to you about our AdaptLA effort, which is a regional framework to address sea level rise and coastal hazard planning in an urban coastal community. Next slide, please. And so just a little bit of primer on the LA coastline to give you some context. We're dealing with approximately 74 miles of coastline in LA County. It's a really diverse shoreline. However, sandy beaches account for nearly 62% of the coastline. So there's a lot of sandy beach. It holds a very high recreational, economical, and even some habitat value for the coastline. We also have a really highly developed coastline. Almost all of the coastline is developed in some capacity. And there was previously a historic dune systems along the coastline up in Malibu and a really large complex dune system around LAX airport. If you've ever flown through there, you can see it as you fly out. And some recent sea level rise predictions working with USGS with a tool called the Coastal Storms Modeling System, also known as COSMOS. And other tools has really allowed a lot of these cities and different agencies to begin planning for sea level rise using science-based methods. And in one of those reports, actually multiple reports, have predicted that up to 60% of beaches in LA County could be gone by 2100. Next slide, please. And so I just wanted to talk about the framework because it's seems like a very simple and straightforward framework, but it works really well here and I think is very adaptable to other areas. We basically take the science working with organizations like USGS with their coastal storm modeling system, developing interactive tools and kind of translating that science into products that stakeholders and partners can use to begin planning, conduct vulnerability assessments, and eventually lead to adaptation. Next slide, please. And so when we're addressing the coastal impacts in the Los Angeles region, it's a very complex coastline, not only in the built environment and the economic and recreational value, But we have over 16 coastal communities, different cities, different jurisdictions, different agencies managing the coastline, and a lot of those overlap with each other. And so this regional approach to planning has really developed over the years, and it's become not an organization, but a venue for cities to meet at the table, now virtually, and go over some of these tools that are used for planning, be able to network and talk to each other so that they're not starting from scratch, and really start to take this regional approach towards working together to develop comprehensive sea level rise plans and adaptation. Next slide, please. And so some of the products that have resulted from the planning efforts include things like the Venice Sea Level Rise Vulnerability Assessment, a lot of cities updating their local coastal plans to incorporate sea level rise hazards, organizations that manage beaches like LA County Beaches and Harbors conducting their own vulnerability assessments in terms of their assets that they're managing. And also a lot of scientific publications and collaborations with organizations like NOAA and COOS, who just recently completed their Los Angeles County Integrated Vulnerability Assessment Framework. Next slide, please. And so what we've really seen over the years is this shift from sea level rise vulnerability assessments and planning, getting an idea of the risks and hazards associated with the coastline and what's vulnerable, to developing climate action plans on the ground pilot projects and adaptation strategies. Here you can see this green to gray adaptation. This was adapted from a NOAA green to gray adaptation, specific to kind of the issues that we're dealing with and the solutions we're dealing with here in the Southern California coastline. And one project I wanted to highlight was the Santa Monica Beach Restoration Pilot Project, which is a nature-based adaptation project to create dunes in an area of Santa Monica. It was the first of its kind here in the Los Angeles region. Next slide, please. And so moving forward, we're seeing this shift towards adaptation planning and implementation. These nature-based strategies like the Santa Monica Beach Restoration Pilot Project, which was implemented nearly 5 years ago, about 4.5 years ago, has really led to more collaboration among cities through AdaptLA and other non-governmental organizations. And what we've seen now is 3 more fully funded living shoreline projects happening here in the Los Angeles coastline. One which hopefully will be implemented in the next couple months, the Malibu Living Shoreline Project. Then there's another fully funded one through State Coastal Conservancy called the Los Angeles Living Shoreline Project, and then another one called the Manhattan Dune Restoration Project. So, working with Laura and Nick on this dune enthusiasm, there's a really big opportunity to kind of learn from these projects, including the monitoring and management strategies associated with them. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So huge thanks to the presenters.